السلام الملكي. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله وكفى، والصلاة والسلام على النبي المصطفى. معالي نائب وزير العدل الدكتور نجم بن عبد الله الزيد، أصحاب المعالي والسعادة، ضيوف المملكة العربية السعودية الكرام، أيها الحفل الكريم. بالعدل تبنى الأوطان وتستقيم المجتمعات ويأمن الناس، فكيف إذا كنت في وطن جعل العدل منهجاً راسخاً ورمزاً شامخاً وشعاراً دائماً لا يبلى؟ أيها الحضور الكرام، اعتدنا أن نواكب كل جديد، كل جديد، وأن نخطو بخطوات واثقة نحو المستقبل، وأن نعمل باستمرار على تطوير المنظومة العدلية وخدمة البشرية بحثاً وابتكاراً وقانوناً وحواراً. ولذا كان عنوان مؤتمرنا التميز في التدريب القضائي، الابتكار في الأدوات والمنهجيات. واليوم يلتقي هنا خبراء ومختصون وقانونيون من أكثر من 30 دولة حول العالم، اجتمعوا جميعاً هنا في هذا الوطن مرسخ العدالة ومستمر الطموح. أهلاً بكم جميعاً.
العالم كله يعمل على أنظمة واضحة وقوانين واضحة لتنظيم حياة البشر.
هنا في مهد العدالة، حيث تصاغ القوانين ويصان الحق ويمتد ظل الإنصاف، وكان الإنسان دائماً هو محور الرسالة وبوصلتها الدائمة. ومع تدشين وزارة العدل مركز التدريب العدلي، انطلقت حكاية بناء الكوادر العدلية، لا مجرد نقل المعرفة، بل صياغتها وإكسابها الحياة. إننا لا نواكب العالم فحسب، بل نصنع إضافة نوعية نصوغ المستقبل بعدالة راسخة وقضاء عصري وكوادر مؤهلة تشارك العالم رؤيتها وتبني جسور التعاون مع أعرق المؤسسات العدلية الدولية. واليوم في قلب الرياض تلتقي الخبرة الوطنية بنخبة من الخبراء الدوليين ليقدموا رؤى جديدة حول التميز في التدريب القضائي لبلورة نموذج تدريبي متطور يلبي طموحات وزارة العدل وتوجهها نحو الابتكار في بناء القدرات وتوظيف التقنيات الحديثة في التدريب القضائي وفق أفضل الممارسات التدريبية لرفع جودة الأداء القضائي. هنا تطرح الأفكار المبتكرة وتبنى الشراكات في مشهد يؤكد المكانة المتقدمة للمملكة في صناعة المعرفة وريادة التطوير والتدريب القضائي.
أيها الحضور الكرام، نجتمع اليوم مستهدفين الابتكار في التدريب القضائي، نصوغ الأفكار الملهمة للوصول إلى التميز في التدريب القضائي، ولنقدم ثقافة عدلية تشع من المملكة العربية السعودية إلى العالم أجمع. الآن الكلمة لسعادة المدير العام لمركز التدريب العدلي. رحبوا معي بالدكتور محمد بن ناصر الشلفان.
معالي نائب وزير العدل الدكتور نجم بن عبد الله الزيد، أصحاب المعالي والسعادة، ضيوفنا الكرام، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. يشرفني أن أرحب بكم في المؤتمر الدولي الثاني للتدريب القضائي الذي تنظمه وزارة العدل ممثلة في مركز التدريب العدلي برعاية صاحب المعالي وزير العدل الدكتور وليد بن محمد الصمعاني، بعنوان التميز في التدريب القضائي، الابتكار في الأدوات والمنهجيات، حيث نلتقي اليوم مع أكثر من 60 خبيراً دولياً من أكثر من 30 دولة يمثلون مجموعة متميزة من المعاهد القضائية والمراكز المتخصصة المعنية بتطوير القدرات القضائية والقانونية. لقد شكل النجاح الذي حققه المؤتمر الذي انعقد العام الماضي هنا في الرياض مصدر إلهام ودافعاً لانعقاد هذا المؤتمر، تأكيداً على استمرار مسيرة التطوير وتعزيزاً لما تحقق من إنجازات نحو مستقبل أكثر إشراقاً وفاعلية في ميدان التدريب القضائي. شاكراً لمعالي وزير العدل توجيهه بإقامة هذا المؤتمر الثاني ودعمه لهذا الجهد الدولي المتميز. أيها الحضور الكريم، يناقش مؤتمرنا هذا العام محاور رئيسية تهدف إلى إرساء تميز مستدام في التدريب القضائي من خلال استراتيجيات وأدوات مبتكرة وبرامج نوعية متخصصة وتوظيف فعال للتقنيات الحديثة والذكاء الاصطناعي، مقرونا بقياس دقيق لأثر التدريب على المنظومة العدلية وتعزيز دور البحوث والابتكار في صياغة رؤى جديدة ترتقي بالتدريب القضائي إلى آفاق أرحب وتسهم في بناء مرفق قضائي أكثر كفاءة واحترافية. الحضور الكريم، لقد جعلت قيادة خادم الحرمين الشريفين الملك سلمان بن عبد العزيز وولي عهده صاحب السمو الملكي الأمير محمد بن سلمان بن عبد العزيز رئيس مجلس الوزراء حفظهم الله العدالة وجودة خدماتها في قلب رؤية المملكة 2030، فشهد المرفق العدلي نهضة تشريعية وقانونية غير مسبوقة. ومن هنا جاء دور مركز التدريب العدلي ليكون ذراعاً تدريبياً لوزارة العدل يطور الكفاءات الوطنية ويرتقي بمهارات الممارسين العدليين. فخلال عام 2024 نفذ المركز أكثر من 4800 دورة، وفر من خلالها أكثر من 220 ألف مقعد تدريبي بزيادة قدرها 55% عن العام السابق. استفاد منها مختلف الممارسين العدليين من القضاة ومساعديهم والمحامين، إضافة إلى القطاع الخاص ذي العلاقة. إن هذا النمو التاريخي هو استمرار لتجاوز الأرقام القياسية التي حققها المركز خلال السنوات الماضية، وذلك بفضل دعم وزارة العدل والتنسيق الوثيق مع المجلس الأعلى للقضاء. وفيما يتصل بتدريب القضاة على وجه الخصوص، فقد نفذ المركز خطته السنوية التي خصصت لكل قاض 50 ساعة تدريبية كحد أدنى، وذلك عبر برامج تدريبية قانونية مطولة ودورات قصيرة متخصصة صيغت بعناية لتواكب الحراك التشريعي المتسارع في المملكة وتترجم رؤيتها الطموحة في تطوير المرفق العدلي. وهذا التدريب قدم بأساليب متنوعة شملت الحضور المباشر والتدريب المدمج والتدريب الذاتي والتكيفي في منظومة متكاملة تعكس حرص المركز على صقل المهارات وتعزيز المعارف وتمكين القاضي من أدوات العدالة بأرقى معايير الكفاءة والاحتراف. وفي إطار رفع كفاءة إدارة العملية القضائية، فإن مركز التدريب العدلي يوفر تدريباً مستمراً ومكثفاً لمساعدي القضاة والعاملين في المراكز الفنية والمتخصصة التي تباشر أعمال المحاكم. ويقدم المركز اليوم 3 دبلومات عالية في القانون، أولها مخصص للقضاة المعينين حديثاً باسم الدبلوم العالي في الدراسات القضائية، والثاني في القانون الجنائي، والثالث في المحاماة للخريجين حديثاً الراغبين في الدخول لمهنة المحاماة. ويمتد عملنا إلى شبكة واسعة من الشراكات المحلية والدولية تشمل وزارات العدل والمعاهد القضائية والجامعات لتبادل الخبرات وتطوير برامج عالية الجودة في المهارات القضائية والقيادة وإدارة المحاكم ومختلف التخصصات القانونية. وإن هذا المؤتمر هو ثمرة من ثمار تلك الشراكات. أيها الحضور الكريم، إن اجتماعنا هذا هو فرصة لتبادل المعرفة وصناعة أفكار جديدة تسهم في تطوير التدريب القضائي عالمياً. ونحن في مركز التدريب العدلي نفخر بأن نكون منصة لهذا اللقاء النوعي، وأن نعمل معكم من أجل مستقبل مرفق قضائي أكثر كفاءة وجودة. أكرر ترحيبي بكم وأشكر معالي وزير العدل على رعايته لهذا المؤتمر وعلى دعمه المتواصل لمركز التدريب العدلي، كما أشكر معالي نائب وزير العدل الدكتور نجم بن عبد الله الزيد على تشريفه لهذا المؤتمر وافتتاحه لأعماله هذا اليوم. ولا أنسى أن أشكر زملائي وزميلاتي المنظمين له، وأشكر كذلك جميع المتحدثين والضيوف من داخل المملكة ومن أنحاء العالم، متمنيا لمؤتمرنا هذا النجاح والتوفيق. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
في المؤتمر الأول للتدريب القضائي الذي أقيم في العام الماضي، وقف صاحب المعالي وزير العدل الدكتور وليد بن محمد الصمعاني على هذا المنبر قائلاً إن الاستثمار في بناء القدرات البشرية محور أساسي في تطوير العملية القضائية. ومنذ ذلك الحين واصلت وزارة العدل هذا الاستثمار النوعي حتى وصلنا إلى مشهد عدلي مشرف يعكس المنجز ويترجم الطموح. الكلمة الآن لمعالي نائب وزير العدل. رحبوا معي بمعالي الدكتور نجم بن عبد الله الزيد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أصحاب المعالي والسعادة، الحضور الكريم، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. نيابة عن صاحب المعالي وزير العدل الدكتور وليد بن محمد الصمعاني، أرحب بكم في المؤتمر الدولي الثاني للتدريب القضائي الذي تنظمه وزارة العدل بعنوان التميز في التدريب القضائي، الابتكار في الأدوات والمنهجيات، والذي يأتي امتداداً للنهضة الشاملة في المملكة العربية السعودية بمختلف القطاعات منذ انطلاق وإطلاق رؤية المملكة 2030 بتوجيه كريم من خادم الحرمين الشريفين الملك سلمان بن عبد العزيز آل سعود، وبقيادة ومتابعة من صاحب السمو الملكي الأمير محمد بن سلمان بن عبد العزيز آل سعود ولي العهد رئيس مجلس الوزراء حفظهم الله. وكان القطاع العدلي في طليعة القطاعات التي حظيت بالدعم الكريم. السيدات والسادة، إن النجاح الذي حققه المؤتمر الدولي الأول للتدريب القضائي الذي أقيم في مدينة الرياض العام الماضي وبشراكة دولية مميزة كان دافعاً كبيراً للاستمرار في عقد هذا المؤتمر الدولي ليكون منصة عالمية لتبادل الخبرات واستعراض أحدث الممارسات ومناقشة التطورات المتسارعة في التدريب والتأهيل القضائي والقانوني بمشاركة نخبة من القضاة والخبراء والمتخصصين والباحثين من مختلف دول العالم. الحضور الكريم، عملت وزارة العدل على ترسيخ الجودة في العمل القانوني والقضائي وتعزيز كفاءة المنظومة العدلية وجعلت التدريب والتأهيل وإدارة المعرفة القانونية أدوات رئيسية لتحقيق هذه الغاية، إذ لا تكتمل منظومة العدالة إلا بكوادر مؤهلة تجمع بين عمق المعرفة وخبرة الممارسة وتلتزم أعلى المعايير المهنية والأخلاقية. ولذا كان مركز التدريب العدلي متخصصاً في إعداد وتأهيل كوادر المنظومة العدلية والقانونية بالتنسيق مع كافة الشركاء لتقديم برامج تدريبية متقدمة ولرفع جودة مخرجاتها. الحضور الكريم، تعيش المملكة اليوم نهضة تشريعية رائدة يقود مسيرتها سمو ولي العهد أيده الله لترسيخ استقرار المبادئ القانونية وضمان الحقوق وتعزيز الشفافية وزيادة اليقين القانوني. وفي إطار هذه النهضة أطلقت منظومة متكاملة من التشريعات المتخصصة المتوافقة مع تطلعات رؤية المملكة 2030. وقد دشنت وزارة العدل العام الماضي واحدة من أكبر مبادراتها التدريبية من خلال مركز التدريب العدلي، وهو الدبلوم العالي للقانون الجنائي المخصص في المرحلة الأولى منه لقضاة المحاكم الجزائية بهدف تمكينهم من مهارات التطبيق السليم للقانون الجنائي لضمان جودة الأحكام. ومواكبة للتطورات والنمو الكبير والمستمر في أعداد المستثمرين والسياح الأجانب في المملكة، أطلقت الوزارة من خلال مركز التدريب العدلي برنامجاً لتطوير اللغة الإنجليزية للقضاة، والذي يستهدف رفع مهارة 500 قاضٍ خلال 5 سنوات في اللغة الإنجليزية، تعزيزاً لقدراتهم وإمكانياتهم في التواصل مع الخبرات الدولية بما يثري التجربة القضائية. الحضور الكريم، إن الاستثمار في الإنسان هو جوهر بناء منظومة عدلية حديثة. ومن هذا المنطلق يواصل مركز التدريب العدلي برامجه لتأهيل القضاة وتدريب جميع أفراد المنظومة العدلية من محامين ومساعدين قضائيين وموثقين ومصلحين ومقدمي خدمات التنفيذ وغيرهم. ونسعى من خلال هذا المؤتمر للوصول إلى نموذج تدريب قضائي متكامل يواكب التطورات ويعمل بانسجام مع بقية الممكنات والأدوات الداعمة. ختاماً، أجدد الترحيب بكم جميعاً، متمنياً أن يثمر هذا المؤتمر عن نتائج نوعية تسهم في تعزيز التدريب القضائي محلياً ودولياً. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
أيها الحضور الكرام، في ختام هذا الافتتاح نتوجه بخالص الشكر والتقدير لمعالي وزير العدل الدكتور وليد بن محمد الصمعاني على رعايته هذا المحفل، والشكر موصول لمعالي نائب الوزير الدكتور نجم بن عبد الله الزيد على افتتاحه وتشريفه، كما نشكر حضوركم الكريم. انتهى الافتتاح، وبعد قليل ستنطلق أولى الجلسات الحوارية لهذا المؤتمر. نرجو لكم أن تقضوا أوقاتا جميلة مع فعاليات المؤتمر. طاب يومكم، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أهلا بكم مجددا في المؤتمر الدولي للتدريب القضائي. نعيد الترحيب بكل ضيوف المملكة العربية السعودية الكرام الذين شرفونا في هذا المؤتمر، والترحيب أيضا بكل الحاضرين والمتفاعلين مع جلسات هذا المؤتمر. قبل قليل كنا مع حفل افتتاح المؤتمر، والآن ستنطلق أولى الجلسات الحوارية في هذا المؤتمر، راجين لكم قضاء أوقات ممتعة معها. الجلسة الأولى ستأتيكم تحت عنوان التميز في التدريب القضائي، الابتكار في الأدوات والمنهجيات. واسمحوا لي أن نرحب جميعاً بالمتحدثين في هذه الجلسة. أولاً نرحب بمدير الجلسة السيد مارتن الكامب. كما نرحب بالمتحدثين الكرام في هذه الجلسة الدكتور محمد الشلفان، السيد إريك بيترسون، السيد راف فان رانسبيك، السيدة كلارا كارولا. نرحب بهم جميعاً. أنقل الصوت الآن إلى مدير الجلسة السيد مارتن الكامب، راجياً لكم قضاء وقت جميل ونافع وممتع مع أولى الجلسات الحوارية.
Assalamu alaikum. I am very happy to be the moderator of this distinguished panel. We are very grateful to the Ministry of Justice for putting on this important conference and bringing together judicial scholars and trainers from around the world and this beautiful location. Thank you very much for that. We're going to be talking about excellence in judicial training, innovation, and tools in methodologies. And actually, if you look through all of the different presentations over the course of the next 2 days, you're going to see how much care and detail has been put into understanding what the judiciary needs today to deal with the problems of today and the technologies of today. And I'm going to alternate talking and asking questions to members of the panel to give each of them a chance to talk with us and to talk with each other. So, and I'm going to start with my first question to Dr. Mohammed Al-Shafan. And in your experience as the director of this august Judicial Training Center here in Saudi Arabia, what would you say are some of the key criteria to ensuring excellence and quality in judicial legal training? And what's the most effective indicators and tools for measuring these effects?
شكرا جزيلا Professor Camp. I'll be speaking in Arabic, so if you need headsets, I think it's a time. مساء الخير. أنا أكرر ترحيبي بجميع الحضور في هذا المؤتمر والمتحدثين وزملائي على في هذه الجلسة. فيما يتعلق بالتدريب القضائي، أعتقد أن هناك عوامل كثيرة يمكن تصنيفها كمعايير لقياس نجاح التدريب القضائي. أعتقد أنه منهجية التدريب القضائي، ونحن اليوم نتحدث عن الابتكار في الوسائل أو الأساليب والمنهجيات، أعتقد أنه من أهم النقاط التي يجب التركيز عليها هي منهجية التدريب. فلدينا مثلا يجب أن يكون التدريب مبني على دراسة مفصلة وواقعية للاحتياج التدريبي. الاحتياج التدريبي الذي يعبر عن الاحتياج الفعلي للمؤسسة القضائية، سواء لدى القضاة أو أعضاء النيابة أو حتى لدى الممارسين العدليين بشكل عام، بمن فيهم المحامين والمحامين المتدربين. ربما الشيء المهم الآخر، وأنا كنت أظن أن هذه نقطة ليست محل جدل كبير، وهو أن التدريب يجب أن يكون، خصوصا لما نتكلم عن التدريب القضائي، أن التدريب يكون من القضاة للقضاة قدر الإمكان. الممارسة التي وجدناها أنه فاعلية التدريب، أثر التدريب، تقبل التدريب خصوصا لدى أعضاء السلطة القضائية لما يكون مقدم من القضاة أو من السلطة القضائية لديه أثر أكبر. طبعا هذا لا يعني، وأنا أعرف أنك دين كامب يعني تنتمي بشكل كبير إلى المؤسسة التعليمية حاليا، هذا لا يعني أن المؤسسات التعليمية ليست شريك في هذا التدريب، لكن أعتقد أنه كان هناك ممارسات سواء في المملكة أو حتى خارجها، الاعتماد الكبير جدا على المؤسسات التعليمية لتدريب القضاة. ونعتقد أنه يمكن العنصر في المنهجية التدريبية حاليا بالاعتماد على المؤسسة القضائية لتدريب القضاة أعتقد أنه يحقق نتائج مهمة. هذا العنصر الثاني. ربما العنصر الثالث كذلك في المنهجية هي تبني أحدث وسائل التدريب. الاكتفاء بطريقة معينة للتدريب أو وسيلة معينة للتدريب قد لا يحدث الأثر المطلوب، ولذلك مهم خاصة في ظل تطور التقنيات الاعتماد على حزمة متنوعة من أساليب التدريب سواء باستخدام التقنية أو غيرها. هذا فيما يتعلق بالمنهجيات. فيما يتعلق بربما وسؤال حضرتك كان عن معايير قياس نجاح العملية التدريبية، أعتقد أنه من أهم معايير أو من أهم معايير نجاح التدريب هو قياس أثر التدريب بطريقة فاحصة، بطريقة دقيقة جدا. يعني أنا أعتقد أنه كان فيه الصباح اليوم ورشة عمل، يمكن كان الدكتور نبهان المعولي من سلطنة عمان كذلك يتحدث عنها، اللي هي أثر التدريب وقياس أثر التدريب. مهم يكون قياس أثر التدريب لأنه يعطي نتائج رقمية كمية واضحة لأثر التدريب بالإضافة للنتائج النوعية. أعتقد كذلك يمكن معرفة أثر التدريب أو معايير نجاح التدريب هو الاستثمار في صناعة المدربين بشكل كبير. أمل أني أجبت على التساؤل.
Thank you. And actually, that's very interesting. And I was having a conversation earlier about that very issue that you talked about in terms of investing in judicial training and its importance. I was speaking with Ralph, who's the director of the Judicial Training Institute in Belgium. Before I ask you a person yourself, would you comment on what Dr. Al-Shafan has said with regard to the importance of providing resources for judicial training and how that impacts the effectiveness of judicial training?
Sorry, I did not understand very well your question. So it's what the biggest challenges are for judicial training?
So what I was saying, you and I were speaking earlier about what happens if you don't have the necessary resources and you have to provide a judicial training program. And you and I were talking about a story you were telling me, and I was thinking maybe you could comment on the comments that Dr. Al-Shafan had said about the importance of measurement and the importance of judges and the training of each other, and how you have seen that play out in your system there in Belgium.
Thank you very much for the question, and also thank you very much for the invitation for being here in Riyadh. Yes, indeed, resources are a very important issue for a training institute. I'm the director of the Belgian Judicial Training Institute. So we are a very small institute. We only have 40 people who are training a target audience of more or less 16,000 people, and we are training on an annual base almost 23,000 participants. But the issue of the resources, or the problem of the resources, I would like go a bit more into it. Maybe a good example can help you. So I have seen in the workshop that a lot of people here in the audience are connected to a judicial training institute. So you certainly will be aware of the problem I will raise. So imagine it is New Year's, the 5th of January. So everything is calm, everything is smoothly, no worries at all. Life is beautiful. And then I get an invitation, an invite of the president of our Ministry of Justice. He wants to see me, he wants to talk to me. Okay, I say maybe New Year's wishes, thing like that. But at the moment I switch on my computer, I see appearing all the jet set of the Belgian judiciary. And they asked me, so, dear director, we expect from you that you will be able to set up a training for more or less 1,500 people, decentralized all over the country in 5 or 6 areas. This training must be launched from March on, and it must be finished in the beginning of May. And so this is a real evolution I see for each training institute, that also in Europe, also beyond, because I also raised the question in Korea, in Seoul, and everybody recognizes the problem. There is an evolution where we have to organize trainings for audiences that are becoming bigger and bigger in a time frame that becomes shorter and shorter. And the period or the time to prepare ourselves to do the rollout is becoming shorter and shorter, without that our staff increases, without our financial means increasing. So we have to do more with less, which you can afford for a certain while, but which is very difficult to continue on that level. So, and then the question is, of course, what is the strategy that you can to cope with this kind of problems? And then I would say talk, talk, talk. So communication, try to break into the different gremia, break in to get news, to get information. What are the projects that you are preparing? What are you facing? What are your ambitions? What do you want to accomplish? What are the projects where you are working on? What's the time frame you foresee? Because as they are so focusing on digital new projects and systems, well, training will be forgotten. It's completely at the end that they will think, oh yeah, training, of course, rollout, we need something. So this is the way how we try to get the information we need to prepare ourselves to be in time when the light, the flag comes that we have to launch ourselves. I hope that that answered your questions. And sorry about my hearing, but there's a kind of resonance that makes it not so easy always for me.
I think you touched on something very important, which is the need to be flexible and the need to respond to the audience that needs your judicial training. And I think that's something that anybody who's in the position of having to train people has to understand who the audience is that they're trying to train. What's their current background? What do they currently know? What do they need to know to get to the level that they can be effective? And I guess maybe one of the things that I'm kind of curious about, Clara, you are a director in Spain. And can you tell us what are the modern tools and the methodologies that for you have proven effective in your judicial and your legal training at your center and in your experience? And how do you now see the impact of AI in training programs? What's happening now with your institute?
Yeah, thank you. Sabal here. Let me answer with a question. If you were to face a legal problem and end up in a courtroom, what kind of judge would you want to decide your case? Have you ever thought about that? Would you prefer a judge who knows the entire legal system perfectly and simply applies the specific rule to your case in an absolutely rigorous manner, operating like a machine? Or would you rather have a judge who, in addition to knowing the legal system, possesses sensitivity, the ability to actively listen to people involved in the trial, who is empathetic, and who knows how to adapt the decision to the particularities of each case? Most of us here would probably prefer the second type of judge, a judge who, in addition to technical knowledge, has socio-emotional skills, a judge who operates with emotional intelligence. If we are clear about that, the question we must ask ourselves is, what methodologies should we use in our judicial schools to train these socio-emotional skills? In Spain, we have made a firm commitment to training focused on these socio-emotional skills. And for this purpose, we make an extensive use of simulation-based methodologies. Simulations allow us to work on many aspects related to these socio-emotional skills. They enable us to develop the way in which judge actively listens to the parties involved in the trial, the way in which judges express himself orally, using clear and understandable language for the citizen, the value we assign to body language, and how to manage self-controls in situations of crisis or high emotional tension. One resource that has proven very effective in Spain is recording these simulations. In this way, the students who participate can later watch themselves and assess their strengths and weaknesses. Furthermore, as we conduct simulations throughout the year, students can observe their own progress. And since we also simulate real cases, we can compare the way the trainee judge conducted the hearing with how the judge handled the real trial. As in Spain, hearings are recorded, and therefore we have access to the original recording. It is also important for us to involve the audience, meaning the other students who are not participating in the simulation. They should take notes on the role of the evaluators, noting the strengths and the weaknesses of their peers, because peer evaluation helps everyone to improve. At the Judicial School in Spain, we conduct internal simulations where all students assume different roles, such as the role of the lawyer, the judge, the prosecutor, the witness. But we also organize simulations in collaboration with other professional associations and schools. And in these simulations, the role of the lawyer is played by a trainee lawyer. And similarly, the role of the prosecutor is performed by a trainee prosecutor. This makes the simulation more challenging, much more closer to reality, and beneficial for all students involved. And regarding the second part of the question, the one about artificial intelligence, in Spain, the implementation of artificial intelligence in the daily work of the courts has still a long way to go. As of today, we do not yet have artificial intelligence tools that allow us to complement or replace judicial work. And therefore, we have not yet introduced the application of the artificial intelligence in schools for judgment, for drafting judgments. We strongly advise judges against using tools like ChatGPT for drafting judgments. We do not rule out that in the long term, when a tool is specifically designed for this purpose, certain types of cases might be resolved using artificial intelligence. But however, as I mentioned, at the present, we do not have such tools, and the existing ones does not allow the drafting of judgments with absolutely reliability. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you. And it's very interesting because I come from the legal education background, working with students who want to become lawyers and then ultimately will become our judges. And the delivery of legal education has changed dramatically from a time when there was a sage on a stage and there were lectures and interactions to the emphasis on practical experiences that create competencies by having the opportunity to actually do rather than to listen. And so I would guess, listening to you, it sounds like that one of your methodologies is having programming that involves more than lectures and more than an audience, but has an actual participation part of that. I would ask Eric, is this the way you're seeing this play out in the in your international judicial training that you're doing? Are you using this for this type of training and measurement?
So for everyone's context, I'm with the U.S. Department of Justice, but we do international judicial training. So I don't train U.S. judges. We work with our international partners. And yes, the answer to your question, absolutely, this is the way training is going to be effective. Your simulation concept is spot on. It is exactly what we aim to try to do. And not to answer the same way, I'll take it in a different direction. So we will put on courses, for example, for specific partners, either regionally or bilaterally, focused on opinion writing. And as you say, years ago, that would have just been lectures. Someone like me or you standing up on stage, or any one of us showing examples, here's how you do this. Now we don't call it simulations, but same idea. Here's the problem set, write your opinion, giving the facts, and then you have peers review them, comment on them. You learn from your experiences in doing so in a safe environment where it's judges, peer-to-peer, as you say, and you're able to take that advice and move on and take it back to your courtroom. We do the same thing very hands-on in evidentiary contexts and others. So yes, it's becoming much more fact experience-based than lecture-based.
Well, I think it's interesting from just listening to you that there's a depth and there's a breadth. And breadth is the whole host of skills and knowledge that judges are forced to understand now because of the complexity of the cases that come before them. And so judicial training has to have that breadth to cover those things, but then to get competencies, you have to have depth. And so as you just said, one skill set of opinion writing becomes very, very critical. How the judge was trained in their legal education impact how you address them in their legal training? You know, in the United States, for example, you don't have to have judicial training initially to be a judge. Some of our judges are elected or they're appointed, but in law school, they don't train people to be judges. And in many countries, the judicial path is a separate legal path, so that by the time someone gets to be a judge, they've studied. So how do you modify that when you're trying to do international judicial training?
Some of our business model is to have experts full-time in the country when we do bilateral work. And that allows us a real luxury in the 30 or so countries where we operate for that individual to get to know the legal system, how the individual becomes a judge, what the procedures are. If it's school-based or university-based, what do they learn in that process? If it's like the US, lawyer first, then somehow election appointment otherwise, what do you know going into your judicial role at that point? That allows us to individually tailor what we're doing in each situation, looking at the country specifics, how judges are selected, and what we need to do to get them to the next level. It really is looking at each unique situation and elaborating on what the training was they've had, whether university, experiential, or otherwise, their continuing education over years, and where we want to go to next. And we build a series of courses to start at a certain level, and if we move on quickly, so be it, but we know we're starting here to get everyone on the same page.
It makes a lot of sense, and I think it reflects if you are outward focused as a judicial training center and you're wanting to deal with more than one jurisdiction, it requires you to understand that jurisdiction. But there's also, from each jurisdiction, there are judicial training methodologies that we can grow from each other, we can learn from each other, which is what a conference like this provides. Dr. Ashrafan, how do modern innovative innovations, how do they contribute to reshaping the methods of legal training that you have been doing? I mean, how do you use features that are in the future of what you expect is going to happen with judicial training today, considering that the technology is changing so rapidly? How do you as a center focus on the key aspects of training, the things you've always done and always done well, but then adapt to this technology that's training?
أنا أعتقد أن هذا سؤال مهم وفعلا التقنية والتطور التقني أعتقد أنه أثر تأثير كبير سواء من حيث الأسلوب والطريقة التي يوصل فيها التدريب أو يقدم فيها التدريب أو حتى من حيث المحتوى نفسه الذي يمارس فيه التدريب. فمثلا بدل ما كان الأسلوب مثل ما تفضل زملائي على هذه المنصة كان عبارة عن محاضرات، كان عبارة عن متحدث يلقي على مجموعة من المتلقين، ربما يكون هناك حوار بسيط، ربما يكون هناك. صار الآن أكثر تركيزاً على الجانب العملي، والسبب في زيادة الجانب العملي وجود ممكنات تقنية. فمثلاً أصبح لدينا الآن قدرة على زيادة دخول المتدرب في جو الحالة القضائية أو الحالة العملية التي تعرض أمامه، سواء عن طريق الفيديو العادي أو عن طريق 3D أو حتى عن طريق يمكن تقنيات أكثر تقدماً. صار لدينا كذلك من حيث الوسيلة صار لدينا أكثر من طريقة لتقديم التدريب، فهناك البرامج المسجلة، هناك البرامج التفاعلية. يمكن من أحدث الوسائل التي استخدمناها حالياً والحقيقة أنها لقيت نجاح كبير وقبول من المتدربين في القطاع أو في السلطة القضائية، خصوصاً لما رأوا فاعليتها، وهي التدريب باستخدام تقنيات الذكاء الاصطناعي، وذلك بإيجاد محتوى علمي غزير، ومن ثم تقوم المنصة بعمل ما يشبه بالاختبارات المتكررة القصيرة على المتدرب، بحيث أنها تسأل أسئلة عديدة وتطلب منه الإجابات، وبمقدار ما يحققه من تقدم في الإجابات هذه المنصة الإلكترونية تقدر أن المتدرب استوفى القدر اللازم من هذا التدريب، تنقل المستوى الذي يليه. إذا قدرت حسب إجاباته أنه لم يستوفي القدر اللازم تعيده إلى البداية. طبعا هذا الأسلوب كان في البداية محبط لكثير من المتدربين لأنه كان يريهم نتائجهم بشكل فوري، لكن مع الوقت أصبح الحقيقة مطلوب أكثر حتى من المحاضرات والتدريب المباشر. ولذلك هذا النوع من التطور التقني مكننا من تغيير أساليب التدريب فيما يتعلق بمحتوى التدريب. فمثلا هذا التدريب نسميه التدريب التكيفي، لما كان هو المطلوب أكثر، لما كان أثره واضح وسريع، أصبحنا نغذيه بقدر أكبر من المحتوى التدريبي ونخصص له وقت أكثر كذلك، لأنه مكننا من يمكن زيادة عمق التدريب. في البداية التكاليف الاستثمارية عالية جدا، لكن مع الوقت تكون التكاليف أخف بكثير. ووجدنا كذلك من التجربة، إذا أمكنني أضيف الإضافة هذه، أنه كثير من الناس خاصة مع زيادة استخدام التواصل الاجتماعي، أعتقد أنه كثير من المتدربين خصوصا يمكن من الجيل الأصغر سنا أصبح يفضل التعلم الذاتي على التعلم مع مدرب معين يلقي عليه المحاضرة أو يمارس عليه نوع من أدوار التعليم المباشر.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. I think when people have the capacity to learn at their own pace, it allows you to take into consideration differences in their competencies and their background and their expertise. One of the things I always express with my students is that your confidence in yourself, it comes from competence, and competence just comes from experience. The first time you ride a bicycle, you fall down, but eventually you don't even think about it. You get on the bicycle and you go. And so I think allowing for an integration of this self-paced learning into a judicial training process can do two things, and especially the younger generation, there's a sense of accomplishment when you are able to say, yes, I mastered something. and the AI giving you that instant recognition that I'm ready to move to the next stage, in some ways mirrors gaming, which young people do also. They have to get to the next stage of the game. They have to master this level. So that's an interesting. Clara, how is AI affecting what you're doing in Spain? I mean, do you have similar programs to what Dr. Ashafan was saying?
Sorry, Martin, because I didn't listen. AI?
Yes.
Well, I said we do not use AI tools, and when I was listening to Dr. Mohammed, I thought, okay, we also use that kind of AI for for questions or tests, and it's really, really useful. But we do not have tools that help us to write judgments. And it's for that reason that we try, at the moment, we don't want judges to prepare their judgments with ChatGPT.
You're saying you do not allow them to prepare with ChatGPT?
No, not at all.
How would you how would you watch that? How would you be able to monitor that?
We have a program that can detect if AI has been used to draft the ruling. The fact is that we want the judges being able to draft judgments by their own, because I think that they have to learn to do it by themselves. And then, once AI is improved or implemented in Spain, they will be able to use it. But they have to be able to work without the machines, and then they will have the machines to help them. But as Dr. Mohammed said, we also try to avoid lectures, and we try to focus on activities that mean contact and personal development or training in small groups. So we try to do activities. I wanted to talk about one activity, if you allow me, which is called Socratic dialogue, and nothing to do with artificial intelligence, but I think it's an important methodology that points the focus not on university lectures, but on socio-emotional skills. And this activity, the one I wanted to talk about, called Socratic dialogue, uses dialogue to bring together two very different realities, the one of our students and the one of the inmates in corrective facilities. For 10 weeks, once a week in the afternoon, a small group of 10 students from the school meets with 10 inmates. The same 10 students and the same 10 inmates participate each time on a voluntary basis. Guided by a doctor of philosophy, they discuss and debate different topics related with life in general, happiness, money, family, etc. Beforehand, the philosopher provides them with a short reading, no more than a page, to prepare for the topic to be discussed. And during the session, all our students and the inmates and also the philosopher are present. At the beginning of the activity, and I can assure you because I've been there with them, at the beginning of the activity, the two groups are completely distant from each other, have nothing in common. But as the weeks and the meetings go on, each group discovers in the other a human being with their own concerns and worries, and learns to empathize with the other. At the level of our judicial school, the activity has greatly helped judges to become aware of the importance of active listening, empathy. It has helped them avoiding prejudice and understanding the reality surrounding each person, without ceasing to be rigorous in the application of the law. It has proven or provided them with tools to conduct trials more effectively. This is one of many examples that I could give you about activities that try to focus training in those socio-emotional skills, more than only focusing on how to write the judgment or the ruling.
Thank you. You've sort of hit on one of the challenges, but also the opportunities, which is understanding exactly what is the skill set that particular training is supposed to enforce or to enlighten. And I'm curious, we've been kind of traveling around the world here. We're in Saudi Arabia. You're talking about things in Spain. We've talked about a U.S. training program that is outward focused. But Ralph, how do you see AI? How has that impacted what you're doing in Belgium? And what are some of the effective strategies that you've adopted to deal with these rapid changes?
Well, AI in Belgium is a very difficult story. For the simple reason, and so it's in full discussion, for the simple reason, of course, we are living in a fast-changing world. So we got the results of our training needs assessment. And in our training needs assessment, on all the levels, all the different levels, procedural law, criminal law, contract law, company law, name it, there was a very genuine and important question for having more training on AI. So we are, as a training institute, we are already focusing. That's also one of the elements of a training institute, of course, that you also try to trigger, if you capture novelties, that you try to trigger the reflection within the judiciary. So the last 4 or 5 years, we are organizing what we call a digital Big Bang conference. Since 2-3 years, they're announcing, we are reflecting, we are working on it, we are going to make directives and regulations on the way how we will apply AI in the judiciary. But we haven't anything. So last week, it's very recently, last week we had one of the several agencies that is really working on digitalization of the Belgian justice, to ask them, where are you now? Who is working on all these things? Because we need to start training. Of course, we have general trainings on what is AI and what is the impact of AI, but that are generalities. And I'm also stepping in a bit on what my colleague Peter has said on international collaboration. We are very happy, and Clara is also with the Spanish school member, that we are a member of the European Judicial Training Network, that there is a working group digitalization. Myself, I'm the convener of the working group exchange program, so where we put people together with to learn about each other legal systems, to exchange how they are applying European rules, but also how to use digital tools in your different countries. So this is a very important issue for the moment. So that's the reason why international collaboration and among us in Europe is so important. We are lacking for the moment clear-cut regulations on which we can base our training. But fortunately, we have the EGTN courses and we have the EGTN exchanges to bring digitalization and AI into the Belgian judiciary, to trigger everybody to reflect on this training. Does this mean that AI is completely unknown in the Belgian judiciary? Not at all. It is there. Judges are working with AI. You know, we are a trilingual country, so for translation and for all these kind of things, for making summaries and things like that, AI is used. But is that officially? No. It's all by ourselves that we try, that we are experimenting, and of course that a lot of ethical discussions are arising. Can we do this? How far can we go? So, and at the other side, we, in the scope of the digitalization of the Belgian justice, there too, there are applying AI tools, but have they been checked? We don't know. So they are creating a database for the Belgian judgments, to gather them all and to make them available to the public. So the search engine and the way how to anonymize these judgments, that will be done on basis of AI. But it's still gloomy, it's circulating. So we are still looking for the way how to go in the most efficiently way. Fortunately, apparently, our regulations are on their way, so we are looking forward to them. And from the moment on that we can launch ourselves on more specific themes, we will not hesitate to do so. For the moment, we have only the EGTN offer, and we have only the general offer. Of course, we have courses, digital courses, to explain, of course, in different languages. And there we also are, because that is also a very important issue, the cultural differences. So we have in Belgium the north, which is speaking Dutch, the south, which is speaking French.
Right.
So the way how things are taught in French is different on how the things are taught in Dutch. So now we are thinking maybe we have to subtitle everything so that we can interchange and that we can make these videos available for everybody, that this can support reflection as well. So in a nutshell, AI is in Belgium, but it's a bit like the monster of Loch Ness.
I think
sometimes it pops up and sometimes it's under the water, but it is there.
It's one of those things that just in the last 3 years, I know in education, we had choices in our syllabi about how students could use AI. And one choice was you can't, and one choice was you might, and one choice was here's how. And partly it had to do with professors who were reluctant to acknowledge that AI was coming, but it is. And I think it's the same thing that all of us have to accept, is that the world that we're going to be functioning in 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 years is going to be dramatically different, simply because of the impact of AI on everything from jobs to training to these sorts of things. And so going from you can't use it to maybe you can co-create with it and use it to make us more efficient at the delivery of training and then the judges in the delivery of justice is the aspiration and the opportunity of AI. The ethical issues deal with the inability of judges to effectively use it and or lawyers, and then the mistakes that come in. We're here as a group of representatives of various countries, various training systems, various judicial systems. And Eric, because you're outward facing, you have had a lot of experience in working with international judicial training centers. Just tell us some of the examples of the collaborations that you have seen that have resulted in benefits to each of the entities that are trying to get together to share their knowledge about how to do proper and effective judicial training.
So I'll give you 2 examples of where I've seen, and there are many, but in the short time I have, I'm going to give 2 examples of where we've seen international cooperation, both at a broader regional level and also at a more local level, really work. Before I do that, I have a brief confession to make. I'm not a judge and I'm not a legal academic. I'm with the US Department of Justice. For the first 20 years of my career, I was a prosecutor. But I'm here because I now oversee an office at the Department of Justice in Washington, where, as I mentioned earlier, alluded to, we are outward facing. We place legal professionals. We've had some former judges, prosecutors, even a law professor or 2, and defense lawyer overseas in foreign countries long term, 1, 2, 3 years, working with our foreign partners to address issues of mutual interest and concern. And we do that because we think that to advance training in these areas, you have to know the circumstances of the country you're working with. So it's much more effective for us to have people long-term in a country than short-term. That said, the 2 quick examples I have, because we're short on time, we started about 10 years ago a program in Puerto Rico, and it was only in Puerto Rico because we needed somewhere to house it, called the Judicial Studies Institute. Many of our Latin American and Caribbean colleague nations were transitioning from the inquisitorial system to the accusatory system, and they needed assistance and guidance as to how to do that. and we weren't going to be able to do it all bilaterally with each of these countries. So we set up this regional training institute in Puerto Rico where judges from throughout Mexico, Central, South America, and the Caribbean would come and attend. And we set it up, and one of the huge benefits of that region is a common language. So all the instruction was in Spanish, all the agendas, all the practical exercises. The instructors we brought from the US judges, subject matter experts, etc. Not all, but many, if not most, spoke in Spanish. And we were able to go very in-depth with our international partners, 10-day courses, 12-day courses, full week courses on specific subject matters, like I alluded to earlier, opinion writing, evidence, others, etc. And it was a hodgepodge. It was a real interesting exercise for us because most of what we do is bilateral, having one person in country with our experts going back and forth. But this was 14 or so different countries at various times coming together and all sitting in these classes together. And anecdotally, what I can tell you is throughout those 10 years, we were told innumerable times the value of having fellow judges from the region in the classes together. We would have judges come back to us and report and say, I heard from my Colombian colleague that they do it this way. We had not considered that. We have to go back and look at our rules, our sovereignty, our ethics, but we're going to try to incorporate this concept into what we do based on what we learned by coming together. I joked with Clara that I was going to answer the question about the value of international work by saying, I'm preaching to the choir, an American phrase. We're all here. You all believe in this, it's why you're all here. But we saw it over those 10 years constantly that judges said, I learn a great deal from the instructors, but they almost learned as much at the coffee breaks and at the dinners, talking to their colleagues from the region. And the value of that international regional collaboration was amazing. One other very short, quick example, just earlier this year, we started, and this is more a local collaboration example, a digital piracy working group in a country. And we asked a judge to do something a lot of judges don't do. And I know judge-to-judge training is the best, but this is a real esoteric subject matter area. So we said, Judge, would you be on a working group with prosecutors, law enforcement, corporate entities because of the intellectual property aspect? We needed subject matter experts outside the judiciary, outside government. The judge said, yes, I'll be on the working group. And so over the course of months, as that judge gained knowledge from that working group, that judge is now going back to his country, and we always have called it train the trainer. Our Duke colleague this morning called it cascading, and I like that. But he has taken that knowledge and is now teaching well over 100 of his country's colleagues, all on the bench, what he has learned in this working group. So they're taking it to the bench, and it's a non-traditional approach to put different professionals in the legal system together, but it worked really well in that regard.
That's fascinating, and I think our panel would be able to continue for a very long time because the subject matter is so important. We've come to the end of our time, and we need to leave the stage and let the rest of you go to lunch. And so I'm very grateful to our panelists, and I'm grateful to you for participating. I've learned a lot, and I thank everyone.